You sit down to do something important, something that could actually change your life. But within 2 minutes, your hand reaches for your phone. You scroll. You feel nothing. And the task sits there, unfinished, again. This isn't laziness. This isn't weakness. This is what an overstimulated dopamine system looks like. And science has found a way to reset it. Neuroscientist Lembke at Stanford put it bluntly: we live in a world of overwhelming dopamine. And our brains were never built for this. Research from her lab shows that chronic overstimulation from social media, junk food, and constant entertainment can reduce your baseline dopamine by up to 40%, making ordinary tasks feel impossible. That's not a metaphor. That's neurobiology. The science behind dopamine detox comes from decades of research across neuroscience, addiction medicine, and behavioral psychology. These aren't fringe ideas. They come from peer-reviewed studies published in leading journals. In this video, we are going to see exactly what dopamine does, how modern life hijacks it, and what the research says about resetting your brain so hard things become manageable again. Here's the myth most people believe: dopamine is the pleasure chemical. When something feels good, dopamine spikes. But that's not what the research actually shows. Neuroscientist Berridge found that dopamine is not about pleasure, it's about wanting. It drives you to pursue rewards. You feel dopamine before the reward, not during it. This is why you keep scrolling even when scrolling stops feeling good. Here's where it gets serious. Every time you get a high dopamine hit, a like on social media, a sugar rush, a binge episode, your brain responds by reducing its dopamine receptors. It's trying to stay balanced. But the result is that your baseline drops. Now ordinary things, a walk, a conversation, real work, feel completely flat. Studies show this receptor downregulation can happen within days of consistent overstimulation. The consequence is a brain that can no longer function in a low-stimulation environment. Tasks that require focus, patience, and delayed reward, studying, writing, building a business, working out, feel almost physically painful to start. Research calls this anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure from ordinary activities. It's not depression in the clinical sense, but it operates through the same pathways. And it's becoming extremely common. A landmark study from Volkow and colleagues at the ND scanned the brains of individuals with chronic screen overuse. Compared to controls, they showed significantly reduced dopamine D2 receptor availability in the striatum, the brain's reward hub. This is the same pattern seen in substance addiction. And the reduction correlated directly with how much difficulty people reported starting demanding tasks. Less receptor density equals less drive. Research from the University of Michigan found that the average American is now exposed to over 34 gigabytes of information daily, roughly 5 times what it was in 1986. Every notification, every video, every feed scroll is a microdopamine hit. Your brain is processing an almost continuous stream of stimulation that our ancestors simply never encountered. The brain adapts. But that adaptation comes at a cost to your capacity for deep work and sustained effort. A dopamine detox doesn't mean going completely numb. It means removing artificially high dopamine activities so your baseline can recover. Research shows the nervous system begins recalibrating within 24 to 48 hours of reduced stimulation. After 72 hours, studies report measurable improvements in sustained attention. After 1 week, participants describe ordinary activities, reading, cooking, walking outside, as noticeably more rewarding than before the detox began. What counts as a high dopamine activity? Research groups them by stimulation intensity. The highest tier includes social media feeds, short-form video, pornography, and highly processed foods, all engineered to maximize dopamine response. Medium tier includes news, music, podcasts, and video games. Low tier includes conversation, reading, walking, and cooking. The detox works by temporarily removing the top tier and drastically reducing the middle tier, forcing your brain to rediscover the bottom. The protocol Dr. Lembke recommends, based on clinical outcomes, runs in 3 phases. First, you identify your top dopamine sources, the things you reach for reflexively. Second, you abstain from those specifically for a defined window, 24 hours minimum, 72 hours for meaningful effect. Third, you reintroduce selectively, paying attention to what returns with it. Most people report that after a proper detox, they reach for their phone significantly less frequently. What happens inside your brain during those 72 hours? In the first 12 hours, you'll likely feel restless, irritable, and bored. This is the gap becoming visible, the distance between your baseline and what your brain has been used to. By hour 24, the craving pattern begins to weaken. By hour 48, prefrontal cortex activity, associated with planning and self-control, starts increasing. Research-backed actions to support your dopamine reset. Replace scrolling with a physical activity. Even a 10-minute walk raises dopamine naturally without depleting receptors. Eat whole foods during the detox. Ultra-processed food is a major dopamine disruptor. Keep your phone in another room when working. Use a paper notebook instead of digital apps for planning. Spend time in nature. Studies show 20 minutes outdoors measurably reduces cortisol and stabilizes dopamine. The research also gives us clear if-then logic for managing the inevitable urges. If you feel the pull to scroll, then delay for 5 minutes. Studies show most cravings peak and pass within that window. If boredom becomes overwhelming, then do something physical. Movement is the most reliable dopamine stabilizer available. If you break the detox early, then restart without judgment. The brain still benefits from partial resets and builds longer tolerance each attempt. Here's what the research tells us. Your brain isn't broken. It adapted to an environment that overwhelms it by design. The dopamine system can reset. It just needs the space to do so. A 72-hour reduction in high-stimulation input is enough to begin meaningful recalibration. After that, ordinary life, work, connection, rest, becomes genuinely rewarding again. Your motivation didn't disappear. It's been drowned out. And now you know how to bring it back. Science doesn't just explain what's happening in your brain, it gives you the tools to change it. That's what MedBrief today is here for, translating real research into understanding you can actually use. If this changed how you see your own habits, there's a lot more where that came from. If today's video helped clarify something, share it with someone who needs it. Most people never see research summarized this clearly.